I love when people come on their own because it's like you took a chance, one, on trying food that maybe you haven't had before, and coming to meet people that you don't even know where these other people are coming from too. But people always leave as exchanging socials, which is a great thing.
Welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast, where we document the stories of Black entrepreneurs around Canada. I am your host, Nina Barango, and together we will explore the world of entrepreneurship through the journeys of our incredible guests. Let's get started. Hi, FT.
Hi, Nina.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not bad. Do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about you, your business.
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is FT, Funmi Taiwo, and I am a private chef at Lamuren Inc. Lamuren Inc. is a contemporary Nigerian dining company. We do everything from private dining events, supper clubs, and more large-scale caterings sometimes.
Sometimes. Is Lamuren an English word? Or?
No, it's derived from Lamuren, which is my dad's hometown in Ijebu-Ode. Yep. So sometimes people read it as a French word.
I thought so.
I don't know if that is a good thing.
But it just sounds a bit fancy. So I'm just like, oh,
shout out to
cute.
Lamuren, man.
Shout out to that. Shout out to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what exactly is a supper club? Supper club,
yeah.
Supper club.
Right now, it is a way for me to test recipes and share them with people. So if we put together a menu that's supposed to be used for a pop-up, the supper club is typically where it's tested and like iterated over time.
Right. And why did you decide? I guess it's a bit funny, but like, why did you even decide to do this in the first place?
Because I think over the past couple of years, I've worked in different restaurants. I've tried to figure out the way to express my style of cooking from a Nigerian that lives in Canada perspective type thing. And I've seen people also just like host these dinners at home. And I was like, you know what? I have a dining table, I have a kitchen. We can start it there. So that is pretty much how that came to be.
Did you always know you wanted to be a chef?
No. I don't even know if I'm joking. I don't even know if I'm a chef. I'm just cooking for fun, man, and it's an enjoyable thing.
Right, because like definitely as a Nigerian in Canada, a lot of us like hold on to parts of us that we still recognize, like our Nigerian roots. And you know what? It was funny. I was having this conversation the other day where it's like as a Nigerian in Canada, you're not Nigerian enough. Seen like from the perspective of a Nigerian in Nigeria.
Gotcha.
But from the perspective of a Canadian, you're not Canadian enough. So you're kind of in this limbo.
In between.
And you never actually come out. Like no matter how long you're in Canada for, you never actually come out. But it's interesting what you're doing in terms of bringing contemporary West African Nigerian dishes. And would you say you're putting a Canadian twist in it, or you're just putting your twist on it?
My twist on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like, I don't even know what Canadian cuisine is to the core outside of indigenous Canadian cuisine, because the food here is so diverse as well, which is a great thing. But it just means that like a dish may have an Italian touch to it, or a Latin American touch to it, or an Asian, depending on, you know, what cooking background you have too. Yeah.
So then what inspires the dishes you make then? Like where does that come from? I guess I'm trying to really go back to the source. Where does that come from?
A lot of it comes from childhood, from travel, from spending time with chefs now when I go back to Nigeria, from working experiences here as well. So honestly, it could tap from anywhere. Yeah.
Right. And then so you have a lot of pop-ups, like you host people to pop-ups, but you also test out your recipes at home.
Correct.
What was it like the first time you had a supper club?
Very stressful. It's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, because I was like, I've cooked for people before.
Right.
Let me do a 5-course menu and like invite 4 people to try it. But 5 to 6 courses for 4 people is anywhere from 20 to 30 plates throughout the evening. Like if 4 people are eating 5 or 6 courses, that's 30 individual plates that I have to put together.
You know what I thought? Do you know what I thought it was? And maybe this would be a bit somehow, but like I thought it was like, now it makes sense that you say it's 20 to 30 plates, but I just thought it was like, oh, okay, like let's just try this thing. And
it's yeah. Some dishes will have 5 to 7 components, so like it's a lot that goes into
by
it.
Components, you mean
like let's say it's a rice dish. It may have rice, it may have a puree, it may have the protein, it may have a vegetable, it may have a sauce, and each of those things coming together after just one plate. So it's very involved, but also really fun, because I love seeing all the different components that come in to make one dish, and I love spending time understanding how well they work or not work together.
Right, because see, I've had a couple of fine dining experiences where they do a bit of splash here and all of that, and I genuinely always thought that it was like decorative purposes. Like I didn't really see it as like a component of the meal. The main meal is always somewhere in the middle, like typical dining experience is somewhere in the middle, but like there's this other, like there are other things there.
Sometimes garnishes,
the bit of basil, they will now put it on the side. And so like I just thought, oh, that looks pretty. Like in my head it's like, oh, this looks really pretty. But like tell me a bit about like the work that actually goes into like presenting that like pretty. Yeah,
so you said, sometimes the main dish is in the middle and there's things around it. But in addition to making the food look good, there's like, in addition to taste actually, there's texture, there's also visual elements, because you eat with your eyes first, right?
Yes.
And you're like, okay, or with your phone, whichever one, to be fair.
Yeah.
But there's so many other elements that, like, when I think I'm putting a dish together, I'm like, okay, the main thing, for example, in a jollof rice and steak dish, jollof steak, but then I want on top of the steak for you to taste seasoning, so it may be flaky salt, and that also adds a bit of texture. I may add some crispy greens or so, because that's additional texture on like a plantain puree, for example. So I'm also thinking spice, I'm thinking acid, I'm thinking mouthfeel as well. How does the plantain feel when you eat it? Is it crispy? Is it more of a smooth texture? When you now have like a soft, tender piece of meat, there's a lot that goes into it, yeah.
How do you explain this to like, because I'm guessing most of the people that attend like your events, pop-ups here and there, there's like a certain percentage of them are Nigerian. And thinking of myself now as a Nigerian approaching, a Nigerian fine dining experience, how do you explain it to them in a way that they understand? Because one thing about being Nigerian is you judge with your eyes first. And so when you see someone that's looking funny, you already know, okay, this one is not agreeable. So when you see a meal that's not, like the other day I saw you posted, you made banga.
Risotto,
and I was like,
Different,
definitely different. But in my head I was like, what would this even taste like? And my head couldn't like go there. It just like, it was blocked.
Okay.
And so I'm assuming for myself as a Nigerian in this experience, how did you even like break it to them at the very beginning? Because I guess now people know what to expect, but at the very beginning, how did you say, okay, guys, this is not your normal. This is not your normal more. Like, let's be for real.
You know what? That's a great question. I also have to say, I don't know if I'll call it fine dining.
Right.
There's so much that goes into fine dining.
Right. Unique dining.
Unique dining
Unique
experiences.
dining.
Let's say that.
To me, it's all the same, but you're
No,
right.
it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. But storytelling does a lot to break down, the initial barriers that we have around how a dish should look.
Yeah.
Or perception. If I'm going to explain why you should eat banga risotto, for example, there's banga rice.
Yes.
And that is how that dish initially came to be. The other elements on the dish, for example, like a pea and basil emulsion, is not typical of eating banga at all. But it's summertime in Ontario, peas are in season. I also find risottos very heavy and rich. Same with banga. Banga is also a very, very rich dish,
Yes,
right?
it is.
So if you are eating those two heavy components together, I find adding something light and fresh and maybe slightly acidic helps to you don't feel like it's just straight like oil you're eating throughout the entire dish, right? So even adding pickled chilies on top as well, a little bit of texture. Risotto has that like more softer, creamy feel. So again, going back to all the multiple components and like how I'd explain it to someone, like this again, not your traditional banga. So don't remove that first, but also now think about even the flavors of banga. They're still there, right? It doesn't take away from that. So yeah, sometimes it takes a bit of like convincing, but I find that once most people take the first bite, they're like, okay, it wasn't that bad. Like I'm actually enjoying this. So yeah.
Have you seen those blind taste videos?
Yes.
The one where they're like maybe drinking Coke and they're like, oh wow, this is champagne from somewhere.
Talking nonsense.
Talking nonsense. I feel like personally, if you were to blindfold me and then give me that, like, I would say something wild, but then like that's just because like if I were to see what I'm trying to say is that if I were to do a blindfold test of a dish like banga risotto, like if I were to see it, I'd be like, this thing will not slap. But if I were blindfolded, then I'd be like, wow, this is like creamy, a bit of acid, and then I'll start sounding like a bit like a chef. But like,
so you know what's interesting about that? Like the blindfolding is obviously a physical thing you do to like change your senses, your sensory experience of it. I think we have a way that we see how our dishes are supposed to be. You can't eat egusi if it's not with swallow, or maybe rice if you're like me, for example.
Yes.
But it's like egusi is a sauce, it's a soup, and the possibilities with a certain soup are endless depending on how it is you want to do that. So it's like putting the blindfold on and being like, okay, what are the 10 other things I can do with the egusi that are not eba or pando or fufu type thing. So that is how I try to approach Nigerian cuisine.
And it's so interesting and it's so fascinating to me that you have that mindset with food, because again, back to what you were saying, as Nigerians, so maybe it's an African thing, I don't know, but speaking from experience as a Nigerian, I remember the first time I saw people eating okra, the way they eat okra in Lagos, like okra stew.
Soup, like with swallow.
No, okra and stew.
Oh, right.
Growing up in Port Harcourt, it was okra. Like,
got you.
Okra is already stewed.
Yeah.
And so the first time I was like, like, is that not raw okra you're eating or something? But then I tried it and I was like, oh, this actually slaps. Like, I can see where nowadays, like, that's even my preferred way to enjoy it.
Okay.
But just in general, there's something about growing up in Nigeria that just almost puts life in like a box. Like your whole life is in a box of where you grew up, what you know. And so trying out new things is not really our first instinct. At all. And yes, I'm generalizing, but like a lot of Nigerians are not comfortable in unknown situations. So I find it so fascinating that your mindset, your approach to cooking, not just cooking, but also your brand, how you show up, how you pop up, how you create experiences around West African food, is very much, let's see what else we can try with this. Like, who knows the possibilities? What would you say really, I don't know if it's influenced, if it was always there, but like, if you were to trace the source of when you started looking at things that way, what would you say had the biggest influence on that?
Definitely from a family point of view, right? Like, cooking for me always started at home.
Okay.
My parents are fantastic cooks. My brother and sister are fantastic cooks as well. So like,
Okay.
I think I'm the only one that decided to take it on as work, but we all know how to do it. And when we host at home, we just don't host and serve straight Nigerian food, right? Like my parents also love to travel, so their palates are also pretty diverse.
Okay.
And so they bring that to when we eat at home as well. So I've always just thought that like food is food, man. Like, and sometimes I'm eating jollof with a Mediterranean dish, and I'm like, okay, these two flavors slap. So we can definitely do something with it. Yeah.
And so what happened when you moved to Canada? Like, were you just like, okay, sure. Was that when you decided like, okay, I'll do this for work, like you said? Or
No, I
was it
moved.
before?
I moved when I was 13, so I was not even in the
I don't know whether
workforce.
you
That would
were
have been
cooking
illegal.
at 13. I don't know. Like, people have
no.
superpowers.
No,
like,
no.
okay.
I mean, we were all cooking at home and when we host
Okay.
and things like that. But like, work as a cook or whatever started in university, my second year of university.
Okay.
Yeah, I needed money. Times are hard, you know? So I worked at the pub on campus. I worked in their kitchen. And it was fun. It wasn't any high pressure or anything like that. We were making wings, burgers, things like that. Nothing too crazy. But I worked there for 4 years or so. I really enjoyed the experience. And that just made me think that I could work in the kitchen if I wanted to. So I've always done it part-time because of that. Yeah.
Oh, like you work in kitchens part-time?
Not at the current.
Business. Oh, okay.
Not at the moment. No, not at the moment. No. That's
Okay,
not
okay,
possible.
okay.
That's not possible.
Okay, so that was your first experience, I guess,
Yes.
in Canada or in general, working in a commercial kitchen.
Yeah. In general, actually, I
general.
never did that in Nigeria before then.
And so, what did you do after you left the pub?
I went to use my degree. I actually moved back to Lagos.
Oh, okay.
I did NYSC, and I worked. My background is in psychology, so I worked with an organization that worked with kids with autism. So that's what I was doing in Lagos for a little bit,
Really?
and then I was also working on my own personal project. Also, things involving food. So I was just doing quite a little bit then before coming back to Canada.
Oh, wow. I think, like, there's something about using your degree.
Hey, man, you can't waste it now.
No, because a lot of us are absolutely wasting our degrees.
It's not to waste. I'm sure
it's not to
some
waste,
elements.
absolutely.
Yeah,
but like
yeah,
in the sense of like the standardized path.
I hear that.
After university, till today, my dad is still like, "You studied HR? Like, what are you doing?"
Hey,
Like,
this is human resource management.
I'm doing a
happening
lot
right
with
now.
people,
Like,
like-
yes, exactly.
I'm doing a lot with people, but like, no, I think like that's so interesting. And so when you came back, at what point did you then launch Lamuren?
I came back in 2017 and didn't launch Lamuren till 2019. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I thought you were about to say something about COVID, and I was like,
Yeah, a little bit actually.
Okay.
COVID did have its part to play on how in the direction that we've taken the
Okay.
pandemic, so to say. But before that, it was still just cooking for fun. I was working in restaurants part time from 2017 to 2021, actually, still. And then I'd done my first event at the end of summer of 2019. And I was like, I could carry this on. That's when I decided to actually register Lamuren as like, okay, maybe we could do it more than just cooking at home type thing. And then, as we said, the pandemic shifted how I was able to feed people. Started doing lives. I started doing TikTok. Like, I have.
"Why are you laughing though?"
because when I think back to it, I'm like, damn, I can't believe I was cooking on TikTok. I mean, my videos are still there. And my TikTok persona is British, by the way.
Interesting.
In case you watch it, it's still me. It's just a different FT. Okay?
Right. Different
Yes.
persona, that's fine.
Very, very different persona.
That's great. Okay. So, but your team is not just you.
No.
Did you always start out with the other people? Who are the other people in your team? Did you always start out together? Or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So my brother and a good friend of ours that grew up with us in Windsor, to me,
Okay.
my brother Demi, we all used to, every time we hosted in Windsor, we're like the guys that would grill.
Windsor, Ontario.
Windsor, Ontario.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't even mention that. That's where we moved to. And it's just because we really enjoyed grilling. To me and I went to UTM together, University of Toronto. Anytime we're hosting things for student unions, we've been the ones making suya, all that stuff. So we're like, we could actually join heads together on this. And right now they all involve, the direction of Lamuren, things like that. Yeah.
Do you know what I think we need to bring back as a society?
Or student unions?
Grilling.
Oh,
Student unions, I don't have an opinion on that.
I was like, wait, what?
Student unions. I mean, it helped when I was in university, but
Yes.
I just feel like, for example, now it's summer now.
Yeah.
We're in July now.
Yeah.
The
No man
amount
has
of-
grilled
no
for
man
you.
has
Abby.
grilled.
Yeah, amen. Grill for her. That's what she's telling us.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I just feel like maybe people are like, I don't know what men are up to.
We're
these
busy.
days.
We're fighting for our
Doing
lives,
TikToks
man.
or
Whoa! What? Why would you say that?
okay. Explain. Like, let me know, because like, is it a thing now that men don't grill anymore?
No, we grill.
Really?
Chef Mayo's grill now. What are you talking
That's
about?
true.
Shout out
That's
Chef
actually
Mayo's grill.
shout out to Chef Mayo, because I had
that's
it
my
suya
guy.
like last
Exactly.
year. It
So
was
men are
fire.
grilling for you.
Men are
You're
grilling.
lying.
But it's few and far between, because it's
Okay.
just like, I remember back then, like 2018 summer, that time in Toronto, like at least every other weekend.
No, to be fair, yes. That time has passed. Economy is tough. We can't just be buying meat and be feeding people anyhow.
Like, think about it, at least every weekend there'll be a bit of corn, there'll be a bit of this and that. And then everybody will just come, whether it's a park or at somebody's house, we're just having a great time. Now,
they stopped
actually,
that.
they actually did.
Stop
Capitalism just like absolutely shattered the fun we used to have. But honestly, I just went down that line because I heard you talking about grilling, and I was like, wait, when was the last time a man said, I enjoy grilling?
Me too. I miss men grilling for me. I'm not going to lie to you.
Let's talk about these things. These are the issues. But okay, so now is 2024.
It is.
Everybody knows FT.
That's
Everybody
not true.
knows. Okay, that's not true. Okay.
More people know, but not yet.
Not yet. Okay, that's fair. Because sometimes it's fair. Sometimes you can live in sort of like an echo chamber where
hear that.
it sounds
Yeah.
like everybody knows you, but then you meet somebody randomly and they're like, "Oh, you do this? I've been looking for this." Like, which is fair. But I guess where I was going was, how did you really establish yourself in the Toronto food scene? It's no longer COVID. People don't have to like. People have options now. How were you able to like create that space for yourself and for Lamuren?
I think, first of all, going to university here, I've been part of this community since 2011 in different ways. But I think doing food in the way that I've been doing it has been particularly unique for quite some time. So that has allowed me to just stay in that lane. And I'm enjoying that lane a lot. And I try to add a lot of my personality to the work that I do, because I think that also stands out. People love a good story. In addition to food, there's also so much around the experience that I think about that makes it more than just a plate of food in front of you. So those are the elements that I try to bring in. So my degree is not wasted. I've been using my psychology degree on you guys. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. No, I hear you on that. I find that like food definitely, you know, the thing about Toronto is like a loud but lonely place. Like a lot of people are like suffering from like just not having a space or a community or people to relate to. And so coming over with people, with food, there's conversation, there's like a sense of belonging. There's a sense of like, oh, I'm trying new things. Oh my God, look at me. Like I'm trying these things. I've seen a lot of people say like, oh, I never really liked this dish, but then when I tried it this way, it really
Change your mind.
banged. And so like, I find that like, because we live in Toronto and everybody's trying to like be better than the other person, or like, not necessarily be better, but like everybody's trying to put their best foot forward and present their best self.
Of course.
Nobody really talks about how we're like a lot of people, let me not put myself so, a lot of people are suffering from a lack of belonging and community. And so do you feel that in these supper clubs, pop-ups that you host, do you feel that sense when you're there? Like, do you feel that people are getting that experience, as part of the experience, people like getting that sense of belonging.
I think so, because a lot of people come on their own, which may just be like, okay, I want to try something new, and like maybe none of my friends were interested or what have you, or they were not free. And I love when people come on their own, because it's like you took a chance, one, on trying food that maybe you haven't had before, and coming to meet people that you don't even know where these other people are coming from too. But people always leave as exchanging socials, which is a great thing, because they're like, okay, I want to stay in touch with this person I've met. We have a common interest in food, in other things that we've talked about. So I really, really love that. I think that's one of the best outcomes of the dinners.
I love that. I love that. I mean, are you guys looking into like owning a space?
I don't know. Maybe in the future, maybe in the shorter term future. Especially as things continue to grow, it's nice to be able to rent spaces for events and stuff. But I think that Toronto is in a prime place for experimental West African food right now. I think we've had a lot of more traditional restaurants, and they are awesome and they continue to grow. But I think about places like London, England, that has like 3 generations of Nigerians there. For example, the food has had its time to go from your auntie's buka to Ikoyi restaurant with Michelin stars, or Chisuru and things like that. So like, I feel like Toronto is maybe 10 years behind that still.
Canada maybe.
Maybe Canada even in general, but it also feels like a right time to like start it. So maybe a space is something that does that. Maybe it's just consistency that like also shows other people that this is possible. Who knows?
Do you know what? When I went to New York recently, and I realized that we're actually suffering. Like our food options here, they're good. Like,
what, you mean Nigerian food or just food in general?
Food in general. I had Nigerian food while I was there. I had tacos. Like, I've been to so many tacos like Mexican restaurants in Toronto, in Canada. None of it compared. And I was like, is it that we just don't have... Yes, right now Canada is in a space where there's so many immigrants, there's so many coming here, but like there's no background. Like there's no like you said, 3 generations of like immigrants. Right. In the US and London, you can see that. But here it's just like it's missing a lot. And I think even though it seems like, oh, the food space is like bustling and all of that, by the time I went to the US and I came back, and I think that trip, it was not the first time being there, but like it was my first time really being intentional about like trying out food, because I'd heard it before, like food in the US is great, but I was just like, maybe it's just hype, like, you know. But then I had it, the first one I had, I was like, wow, this is great. I had the second one, I was like, wow, this is great. And
banging.
Banging. And I was just like, remember the Nigerian restaurant I went to? Obviously, customer service wasn't great, but like, the food, however, you know how here when you go to a Caribbean place, and you know the food will be.
That's how that was, eh?
It was better. Like, it was mind blowing. In fact, I started apologizing because I was like, wait, actually, like, I went back the next day and I was like, sorry, like, maybe before you guys thought I was a bit off putting, but like, actually, your food is so good. Like,
I excuse everything else.
Everything, and the man was just looking at me like, huh? Like,
so do you want to buy again? Why are you back?
Well, you're talking a lot. But no. I say all that to say that I hear you in the sense of when you go to places like the US, UK, there is that generational substance, for lack of a better phrase, especially with food. Sometimes you see it with fashion, but especially with food, there's substance, there's culture, there is diversity. You can try out different things, ranging from the highest of classes to like a buka, for example. It would be nice to have a buka in Toronto, though.
I mean, we have bukas now. If you go North York,
actually,
if you are trying to eat,
actually,
Steve is in North York. Oh.
There's another place, I'm forgetting the name now. I swear I was in Lagos. Like,
I think I know the way. I forget the name.
Ayo something. I swear I was in Lagos. It was hot. There was flies. There was
the little hand washing station.
There was a hand washing station. And then
that's
the
one.
food was great.
Exactly.
And then, obviously, you probably have diarrhea after.
Don't say that.
Okay. Let me take it back.
You have a fantastic dining experience.
Absolutely. Like, I left the place thinking, wow, I'm so fulfilled. Like,
can you see? So I love that places like that exist. And I love that Toronto in general is starting to appreciate Nigerian food too.
Yes.
Because those are the places that should be supported as well. Like they are the ones showing, like giving you the food as is.
Yes.
So shout out to all them restaurants, man.
Shout out to them. I guess I'm curious. You have an upcoming pop-up. I don't know if this podcast is gonna be out by then. I highly doubt. But tell me a bit about that. What can guests expect at these pop-ups?
So the one that's coming up, I've been thinking about it, and it feels celebratory for me. I don't know why. We're like a year and a half into doing these pop-ups now, and it feels like the 2nd year anniversary for some reason. Maybe it's just the growth that I've experienced with it, the appreciation for everyone that has supported. This menu is going to be a little bit of, old favorites that have been touched up a bit, as well as some brand new dishes. I feel like it is going to showcase the growth of these pop-ups thus far. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. 6 courses, 2 seatings. We're working with some great wine pairings as well. So yeah, just excited to see how it turns out. And then when you see this, it should have already happened. So
yes,
you see a
that's
recap.
True. You see a recap. Maybe you join the next one.
Exactly.
But 2 sittings, like, how does that work actually? Like, is it that if the first sitting is not done eating?
No, everything starts at a
Time.
particular time and we wrap up, give ourselves time to reset, and then next sitting comes in.
Not even time based, but like I'm thinking about myself as a slow eater. Like a lot of the times my partner would just be like, I'm done eating like 45 minutes ago. And I'm still there like just like enjoying everything by myself. Like, have you ever had something like that where there's just somebody that's just taking their sweet time?
No, actually. Things have always moved accordingly. I think there's also maybe a bit of peer pressure.
Right. Everybody else is done.
Yeah. And then you see us coming to party.
Yes.
You have to finish your
That's
food.
true. That's actually true. And it's funny because I went to boarding house and then I used to be like really quick. But maybe it's just the luxuries of life.
Yeah. When you're at home, you're relaxing, or you're at a restaurant where they're not rushing. We are rushing you.
And I'm that kind of person that like I'm in a restaurant, like before I even place my order, I've talked for like 1 hour first. Then the waiter has come like a couple times. Are you ready? I'm like, wait, no. Like we're catching up.
Yeah,
Can't you see?
Yeah. We will kick you out.
Right. I guess.
Joking, we don't kick anybody out.
But still, hurry up. But no, honestly, like it's been interesting for me, like hearing you talk about your journey, starting from home kitchen and then now doing pop-ups all over the city. I always see when you do the collaboration with Jack and Jollof, and I'm like, for the longest time I thought it was like a thing, like.
No, but those guys are family still, man.
Okay.
Like, Blackito and Asante. I've known Blackito since university, so
Right.
it just feels like it feels too natural and it works really well.
Right. That's so good. Like I like the organic feel of those collaborations.
Yeah.
Almost like a synergy there. But for you, looking at your journey starting from home until now, having grown so much and having had much more exposure, you've traveled more, you've learned a lot, you've met so many people. What is something that you would say looking back that, 1, you appreciate, and 2, you wish did not happen?
Wish did not happen.
I wish you could have avoided.
Interesting. One thing I do appreciate is honestly the people that I've met along the way, the friends you make along the way.
Right.
And particularly because you learn a different thing from every person, right? Like, and I love to cherish those experiences, whether it's like how to chop something differently or how to make a sauce differently, and also what I end up leaving with them too. So shout outs to everyone. One thing I wish I could have done different or happened differently. I don't know. I don't know if
no regrets.
No, honestly, no regrets. The journey has been the journey, right? Like I've made mistakes. Like learning the business of food is also very tricky. Like it's one thing to just enjoy cooking. It's another thing to try and like make cooking for yourself sustainable as work.
Right.
So that's something that I continue to try to get better at. That's no regrets.
I have like a bit of a random question.
Sure.
Why are chefs always so stressed?
Because it's a lot of work, man.
No, granted, but like there are a lot of things that I love work. But like I've never met a chef that is like chill.
I think the amount of things you have to think about,
Right.
while still working and maintaining like a brave face is quite more than some people think it is. Yeah, it's like when I do my pop-ups, in addition to work, it's like an extra 40 hours on top of my 9 to 5 schedule, like making it to stores on time, placing orders. If they don't have an ingredient that you've created in many, like, are you going to switch it? Are you going to call 5 different people to find that ingredient? Making sure that like the night runs according to plan. You could also mess up, like you could make a 10-liter pot of something and burn it as people are getting ready to eat. So now problem solving, you're also always in problem solving mode. So like, it's a very, very involved job, but the people that love it, man. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still stuck on the part where you said you can burn it. Like, I actually thought, like, a lot of times when I see chefs, like, all this, like, cooking shows and all that, they even measure the air they breathe. So, like, I just always assumed it was a perfect science or art, whichever way you want to call it.
Things happen. Oh my gosh, I have the perfect story. So the other day I was making desserts for a dinner we were catering, 16 people or so. The dessert is made with ogi, which is a fermented corn pudding from Nigeria, and coconut milk and coconut cream and sugar. One of my pots is much thinner than the other one, and I was tired. I was just trying to get the dessert out of the way, and I forgot to use the right pot. So I'm cooking, I'm stirring it. Coconut milk has sugar in it as well. I'm just like, something is starting to smell a little burnt here, and I'm not loving that. And I tasted it. This stuff tasted like smoky jollof rice. I'm not going to lie to you. This was like 10 to 12 liters worth of ogi.
What?
That I sat there and I was like, can I really serve this? I was like, would they be able to tell? And as I tasted it, I was just like, this is disgusting. Like, this is...
But what if you package it as this is smoky ogi? Would they know? You've already done Bangla risotto.
I would have cried. Because
Really?
if they ate it, I would have been dying inside that. I knew you were suffering through this. You didn't have to. So I had to go out and get any coconut milk and redo the entire thing. But it's just one of those things that happen. Like, yeah, they happen, man.
But do you know what? I feel like somebody like me as a guest now, especially let's say this is dessert, like you said. I've already had like 4 other meals before. I'll just be like, oh, maybe this is
full.
No, not even I'm full. I just maybe this is the in thing. Like, I'm not a chef after all. How am I supposed to know?
You know what? I thought about that too. Honestly, the amount of things that I thought about before deciding that for me, you have to remake this. Just like, what do you mean? Like, you have to.
What do you mean smoky ogi?
Yes. What do you mean smoky ogi? Like,
that's a bit chad. Like,
no, it was disgusting.
That's so. Because you mentioned ogi, like, how do you source those ingredients? Are you getting them from Nigeria or these
African stores here. Okay. If there are things I can find here, I'll get them. Otherwise, obviously, when I travel, I bring them.
Okay, because there was one time I was just like, how are you like keeping it sustainable, especially now that like groceries are so expensive?
They're expensive. I'm not going to lie to you guys, especially African groceries, because there's the cost of shipping that's added to everything that you buy here. So like, it is quite a premium.
When I walk into the African store, I don't even smile because I'm like, what's funny?
It's not funny again.
What's funny? But no, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Telling us about everything. Now I guess I will appreciate, I'll step in with an appreciative mindset, like, wow, smoky ogi.
No, please, yes, I didn't serve the ogi like that. I promise you.
I'm just joking. But no, thank you so much. I guess where can people find you, and are you doing more pop-ups that people can like keep an eye out for? Because again, like we said, by the time this is out, it'll be done.
On Instagram, Lamuren Inc. LAMUREN INC. On Instagram. And in the link in the bio is our mailing list. I really hate saying this because it feels very markety, but that's the best way to stay up to date with pop-ups. So yeah, Instagram and the mailing list.
Instagram and the mailing list. Love that. We'll make sure to put the links as well.
Thank you.
But thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, my name is Dina Barango. I am your host, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye.